I let my husband think I was having an affair just to see who he'd call first, and the answer destroyed everything. It started because of a text message. Not mine, his. 3 weeks ago, I grabbed Darren's phone to check the weather while mine charged. A notification popped up from someone named Gym Trainer that read, "Can't stop thinking about last night." Darren doesn't go to the gym. He's worked from home for 4 years and considers walking to the mailbox cardio. I didn't confront him. Instead, I started watching the late-night work calls that required him to step outside, the sudden interest in cologne after a decade of Irish Spring soap, the password change on his phone that he blamed on a security update. So I designed a test. Simple, but effective. I left hints. A receipt from a downtown hotel tucked in my coat pocket where he'd find it. A new perfume I never wore around him. Whispered phone calls that ended abruptly when he walked in. I even bought lingerie and left the bag visible in my closet. Within a week, Darren was paranoid. He started checking my location, scrolling through my texts when he thought I was sleeping. The irony was suffocating. Then came Wednesday. I told him I was visiting my sister for the weekend. I drove around the block and parked where I could watch our house. Darren paced the living room for 20 minutes. Then he made a call. I expected him to phone his brother, maybe his best friend from college. Someone to vent to. Instead, he called my mother. I watched through the window as he gestured wildly, phone pressed to his ear. An hour later, my mother's car pulled into our driveway. She didn't knock. She used her emergency key, the one I gave her 5 years ago for actual emergencies. I crept closer, hiding behind the hedges like a teenager breaking curfew. Through the window, I watched them sit on my couch, my husband and my mother. Their body language was wrong. Too close, too familiar. My mother touched his face. Not the way a mother-in-law comforts a distressed son, the way a woman touches a man she knows intimately. Darren pulled her closer. They kissed. I stood frozen in my own front yard, watching my husband of 8 years kiss my mother. The woman who'd introduced us at her company picnic, who'd cried at our wedding and called him her second son, who'd babysat our daughter every Tuesday for 3 years. The pieces rearranged themselves with sickening clarity. My mother's sudden divorce from my stepfather last year. Her new apartment conveniently 10 minutes from our house. The way she always took Darren's side during arguments. How she'd suggested marriage counseling when I mentioned feeling disconnected. Her voice a little too eager. I thought about my daughter, 6 years old, loves her grandmother, draws pictures of our family with crayons, everyone holding hands. I thought about Thanksgiving dinners and birthday parties and every moment my mother had smiled at me while hiding this. My phone buzzed. A text from Darren. "Your mom stopped by to check on me. Sweet of her. Miss you, babe." I sat in my car for 3 hours. When I finally drove home, the house was dark. My mother's car was gone. Darren was asleep in our bed like nothing had happened. I lay next to him, staring at the ceiling, calculating. How long? Since before the wedding? After our daughter was born? Did my stepfather know? Did my sister? The next morning, my mother called to chat. "Just checking in, sweetheart. How's Darren holding up?" I heard he's been stressed. I said he was fine. We talked about my daughter's school play. She asked if she could take her shopping this weekend. For 2 weeks, I've pretended everything is normal. I've smiled at family dinners. I've kissed my husband goodnight. I've watched my mother bounce my daughter on her knee while sharing secret glances with the man I married. But last night, I found something that changed everything. In Darren's desk drawer, buried under old tax returns, was a folder. Inside were paternity test results dated 6 years ago, the month after our daughter was born. The father listed wasn't Darren. I stared at the document until the letters blurred. DNA analysis. 99.98% probability of paternity. The name typed in bold black letters. Gerald Whitmore, my stepfather. The man who raised me from age 7. The man who walked me down the aisle when my biological father refused to attend my wedding. The man my mother divorced 14 months ago after 24 years of marriage. I read the results 3 more times, convinced I was misunderstanding something. But the science was clear. My daughter, the child I'd carried for 9 months, the girl with Darren's dark hair and my mother's smile, wasn't Darren's at all. She was my stepfather's, which meant one of 2 things. Either I had been with my stepfather, which I absolutely had not, or my mother had. The timeline crashed together in my head. My mother had been pregnant at 47. She'd told everyone it was early menopause when she started showing symptoms, the fatigue, the weight gain, the mood swings. But there had been no baby, because the baby was mine. No, the baby was raised as mine. I thought back to my own pregnancy 6 years ago. The complications at 7 months that put me on bed rest. The emergency C-section at 36 weeks. The 3 days my daughter spent in the NICU while I recovered from surgery. The visitors who came and went while I drifted in and out of consciousness. My mother had been there the entire time. She'd been the first to hold my daughter. She'd filled out the initial paperwork while I was still sedated. I called the hospital that night, claiming I needed records for insurance purposes. The birth certificate on file listed me as the mother, but when I requested the original admission forms, something strange appeared. A second patient admitted the same night. Same last name, same emergency contact. My mother had checked into the maternity ward 6 hours before my C-section. She'd given birth. And somehow, her baby had become mine. I didn't sleep. I sat in my home office surrounded by documents I'd pulled from every drawer, every filing cabinet, every storage box in the garage. Bank statements from 6 years ago. Medical bills, insurance claims. The evidence was there if you knew how to look. A cash withdrawal of $15,000 from my mother's account 2 weeks before my due date. A second withdrawal of $8,000 the day after I gave birth. Both to a clinic I'd never heard of. A private facility 2 hours from the hospital where I delivered. I found a letter buried in the back of Darren's filing cabinet. handwritten, my mother's looping cursive. We can't let her find out. Gerald agreed to the test, but he's getting nervous. Keep the results somewhere safe. If anyone discovers what really happened that night, we lose everything, including her, my daughter, the child I'd nursed and rocked and stayed up with through fevers and nightmares, the little girl who called me mommy and drew hearts around my name on Mother's Day cards. I wasn't her mother. My mother was, which made my daughter my half-sister, and Darren had known. For 6 years, my husband had known that the child we were raising wasn't ours, wasn't mine. He'd helped cover it up. He'd hidden the evidence. He'd let me believe a lie while sleeping with the woman who'd stolen my chance at motherhood. I needed to understand how this had happened. The pieces were scattered across years of deception, and I was determined to assemble them. The next morning, I drove to my stepfather's apartment. He'd moved into a small 2-bedroom unit after the divorce in a complex designed for seniors. When he opened the door, he looked older than his 68 years, gray and tired and somehow smaller. "I wondered when you'd come," he said. I held up the paternity results. "Tell me everything." He invited me in. The apartment smelled like coffee and regret. He sat heavily in a worn armchair and stared at the floor for a long moment before speaking. "Your mother was pregnant," he began. "We'd stopped trying years ago, but she was pregnant. At 47, she found out the same month you announced your pregnancy. I remembered that dinner, the champagne, my mother's strange expression when I'd share the news. I'd thought she was crying from happiness. The thing is," my stepfather continued, "the baby wasn't mine. She'd been having an affair. For years, apparently. With your husband. I'd known. I'd figured that part out. But hearing it confirmed made my chest feel like it was caving in. When did it start? Before your wedding." He couldn't look at me. "She introduced you two at that company picnic because she was already sleeping with him. She thought if he married you, she could keep him close without anyone getting suspicious." The room tilted. My entire marriage was a cover story. A convenient arrangement so my mother could keep her lover nearby. The pregnancy complicated things, my stepfather went on. She couldn't exactly have Darren's baby while he was married to you. The scandal would destroy her. So she came to me with a plan. I knew what he was going to say before he said it. "You were having complications. The doctors were worried about early delivery. Your mother saw an opportunity." He finally looked at me, eyes wet. "She paid off a nurse at the hospital. When you went in for your emergency surgery, she checked herself in under a different doctor. She delivered that same night. And when you woke up, you had a baby. And what happened to my baby?" The silence stretched between us like a wire pulled too tight. "There was no baby," he said quietly. "The complications you had. The emergency surgery. You lost the pregnancy 2 days before the C-section. Your mother convinced the doctors to perform the procedure anyway. Told them you were too fragile to know the truth. That the shock would destroy you. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. The baby you brought home was hers. Hers and Darren's. Your mother bribed and manipulated and lied until the paperwork said otherwise. I helped her do it because I thought we were protecting you." "Protecting me?" The words came out like broken glass. "You let me believe a lie for 6 years. You let me raise my mother's child while she slept with my husband. How is that protection?" "I know." Tears streamed down his weathered face. "I know what we did was unforgivable. That's why I finally told her I couldn't live with it anymore. Why I demanded she end things with Darren or I'd tell you everything. She chose him, filed for divorce the next week. I stood up. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else. Why didn't you tell me after the divorce?" He shook his head. "I kept hoping she'd come to her senses, that she'd tell you herself. And I was afraid. Afraid of what it would do to you, to your daughter, to everyone. She's not my daughter." "She is," he said firmly. "Maybe not by blood, but you're the one who raised her, loved her, stayed up with her when she was sick. Biology doesn't make a mother. Love does." I left without another word. For the next week, I gathered evidence like a woman possessed. I obtained copies of the hospital records, which confirmed my stepfather's story. A stillbirth recorded at 36 weeks. My own file sanitized, scrubbed clean of the tragedy that had actually occurred. I found the nurse my mother had paid off. She'd retired 3 years ago, moved to Florida, lived on a pension and guilt. When I called her, she broke down crying before I'd finished my first sentence. "I've prayed every day that you'd never find out," she sobbed. "Your mother said you were fragile, said the truth would break you. She paid me $20,000 to switch the records. I've never spent a dime of it. It's in a safety deposit box. I always knew this day would come. I recorded the conversation, saved the audio file, added it to my growing folder of evidence. Then I went through Darren's phone while he showered. He'd gotten careless over the years, using the same password for everything. Our anniversary date. The anniversary of a marriage built on lies. The texts with my mother went back 3 years on this phone, but references to older conversations made it clear this was just the latest device. They'd been communicating for much longer. One exchange stood out. "My mother, she's getting suspicious. We need to be more careful. Darren, she doesn't suspect anything. She trusts you completely. My mother. That's what I'm afraid of. Sometimes I look at her face and I can't breathe. Everything I've done to her. Everything we've done. Darren, it was her choice not to know the truth. My mother, it was never a choice. We took that from her." Reading those words, I felt something shift inside me. Not rage exactly. Something colder. More patient. The kind of feeling that could wait for the perfect moment. That moment came 3 weeks later. My mother planned a family dinner for my grandmother's 82nd birthday. Everyone would be there. Aunts, uncles, cousins, my sister and her husband, my stepfather, invited out of obligation and old habit, Darren and me, and my daughter who still called my mother grandma without knowing the twisted truth of that word. I offered to bring dessert. My mother was thrilled. She loved when I participated in family traditions. I also offered to create a slideshow of old family photos. My grandmother loved nostalgia. My mother agreed immediately, giving me access to her computer to pull pictures from her archived folders. What she didn't know was that I'd already been through every file on that computer, every hidden folder, every password-protected document. My mother used the same password for everything too, my birthday. The birthday of the daughter she'd stolen from me. The dinner was held at my grandmother's house, the same house where I'd spent childhood summers, where I'd learned to bake cookies and play piano and believe that family meant something. 35 people filled the rooms. Voices overlapped. Laughter echoed off walls covered in generations of photographs. My daughter ran between groups, collecting hugs and compliments on her dress. I watched my mother work the room. Perfect hostess. Perfect smile. She caught my eye once and mouthed, "Thank you," across the crowd. I smiled back. After dinner, everyone gathered in the living room for the slideshow. I'd set up the projector myself, connected to my laptop, file ready. "Before we start," I announced, "I want to say something about family, about the secrets we keep and the truths we deserve." My mother's smile flickered, just for a second. "I've learned something recently that changed how I see our family, something that made me question everything I thought I knew about love and loyalty and trust." I clicked to the first slide, a photo of my mother and Darren at my wedding, her hand on his arm, his eyes on her instead of me. This is my husband and my mother on our wedding day. What I didn't know then was that they'd been sleeping together for 6 months before this photo was taken. The room went silent. My grandmother's hand flew to her chest. "Audrey," my mother breathed. "What are you doing?" I clicked to the next slide. Text messages, screenshots blown up large enough for everyone to read. This is a conversation between them from last year. You can read for yourself what they discuss. Their relationship, their plans, their guilt. Darren stood up. "This is insane. You're making things up." I clicked again. The paternity results filled the screen. "This is a DNA test from 6 years ago. It proves that my daughter isn't mine at all. She's my mother's, fathered by my own husband." My sister gasped. My uncle muttered something about calling the police, though he wasn't clear on what crime he was reporting. "Our daughter," Darren started, but I cut him off. "She was never ours. She was never mine. I lost my baby 6 years ago, and nobody told me. My mother gave birth the same night and switched the babies, bribed hospital staff, falsified records, let me grieve nothing while I raised her child." I clicked to the next slide. The hospital records, the nurse's confession transcript, the bank statements showing payoffs. This is the evidence, all of it. Everything I've spent the last month collecting. My mother stood frozen, her face cycling through emotions too fast to name. Shock, denial, calculation. Finally, something like resignation. "Audrey," she said quietly, "can we please discuss this privately?" "No." My voice was steady. "You had 6 years to discuss things privately, to tell me the truth, to give me the choice you stole. Instead, you let me raise your child while you slept with my husband under my roof." I turned to face the room. My grandmother was crying. My sister looked like she might be sick. My stepfather sat with his head in his hands, shoulders shaking. "I'm not doing this for revenge," I continued. "I'm doing this because I spent my whole life believing family meant something, believing that the people who loved me would never hurt me like this. And I was wrong. I was wrong because I was kept in the dark. I deserved to know. And now everyone does." The slideshow ended on a black screen with white text. "The truth doesn't destroy families. Lies do." I closed my laptop and walked out. Behind me, the room exploded. Voices shouting, accusations flying, my mother calling my name, Darren chasing after me, begging me to stop. I got in my car and drove. The fallout was immediate and devastating. By the next morning, my grandmother had disinherited my mother completely, rewrote her will in front of witnesses, left everything to me, my sister, and a children's charity. My Aunt Patricia, who'd always been close to my mother, stopped speaking to her entirely, called it the worst betrayal she'd ever witnessed. My sister's husband, who worked in family law, offered to represent me in whatever legal proceedings I wanted to pursue. He identified at least 4 potential criminal charges and a civil suit worth pursuing. Darren moved out within 48 hours. He tried to take his clothes, his laptop, a few personal items. He also tried to take my daughter. "She's my biological child," he argued. "I have rights. And I have 6 years of documentation proving I'm her legal mother, plus evidence that you participated in fraud to make that happen. Your lawyer can explain how that works in family court." He left without her. My mother called 47 times in the first week. I answered once. "You've destroyed our family," she sobbed. "Everything I built, everything I tried to protect. You built it on my grief, on a baby I never got to hold, on a marriage that was a cover for your affair." I paused. "I'm not the one who destroyed anything. I just stopped pretending the destruction hadn't already happened." She tried a different approach, showed up at my door with flowers and tears and rehearsed apologies. "I was scared," she said. "I panicked. Darren and it was a mistake that spiraled out of control. But I love you. You're my daughter. Nothing changes that. Everything changes that. I didn't let her inside. You let me believe a lie while you played grandmother to your own child. You watched me struggle through marriage problems while sleeping with my husband. You came to every holiday, every birthday, every Mother's Day and lied to my face. I wanted to tell you, so many times. But the longer it went on, the harder it became. That's not love. That's cowardice." I started to close the door. "I'll be seeking full custody. My lawyer will be in touch about the records." "Custody of who?" Her voice cracked. "Audrey, please. She's my daughter. She's been my daughter for 6 years. And unlike you, I won't spend that time lying to her." I closed the door. The legal proceedings took 14 months. My lawyer was relentless. The evidence I'd gathered made the case nearly ironclad. My mother's bribery, the falsified documents, the conspiracy between her and Darren. The nurse's testimony, given willingly now that she'd unburdened herself. My mother faced criminal charges for fraud and falsification of vital records. She took a plea deal. 18 months probation, community service, a permanent mark on her record. Darren contested the divorce initially, claiming I'd alienated him and manipulated evidence. His lawyer dropped the case after seeing my documentation. The judge awarded me primary custody, the house, and a significant portion of our shared assets. My stepfather testified on my behalf. He explained everything he knew. The court noted his cooperation. The hardest part was my daughter. She was 7 by the time everything settled. Old enough to understand that something had changed, but too young to grasp the full horror of what the adults in her life had done. I hired a child psychologist, spent months in family therapy, learned how to answer impossible questions. Is Grandma really my mommy? She gave birth to you, but I'm the one who raised you. I'm the one who loves you every day. Being a mommy is more than biology. It's showing up. It's staying. It's choosing someone every single day. Do you still choose me? Always. No matter what. She's 9 now. She still calls me mommy. She still draws pictures of our family with crayons. The cast of characters has changed. My sister appears more often. My stepfather sometimes. Darren almost never. My mother sends birthday cards that I read before passing them along. They're careful, neutral, walking the line her lawyer set. My daughter knows she can have a relationship with her biological mother someday if she chooses. I won't be the one to prevent that, but I also won't be the one to push it. Last month, my sister threw me a party for my 35th birthday. She invited friends, some family members who'd remained loyal, the support network I'd built since everything fell apart. During the toasts, my sister raised her glass. To Audrey, she said, who taught me that the truth is always worth telling, even when it costs everything, and who proved that real family isn't about blood. It's about choosing each other. I looked around the room at the people who'd stayed, who'd believed me when the evidence sounded insane, who'd held me when I couldn't hold myself. My daughter sat on a couch between my 2 closest friends, decorating cupcakes and laughing at jokes I couldn't hear. I thought about the woman I'd been 3 years ago, the one who planted false evidence in her coat pockets, just to see what her husband would do. The one who watched through windows and hid behind hedges, desperate for answers she wasn't sure she wanted. She would never have believed this ending, never imagined she could survive it. But survival wasn't quite the right word. I hadn't just survived. I'd rebuilt, piece by piece, brick by brick, a life constructed from the wreckage of every lie I'd been fed since childhood. The therapist says I'm doing well, that my daughter is resilient, that healing isn't linear, but we're making progress. I believe her. Most days, anyway. My mother tried to contact me again last week. A letter, this time, 3 pages long, filled with justifications and explanations and something that might have been genuine remorse if I squinted hard enough. She ended with a question. Do you think you can ever forgive me? I wrote back. 1 sentence. I think forgiveness is something you earn, and you haven't started yet. I don't know if she'll ever start, if she's capable of the kind of honest reckoning that would make reconciliation possible. She spent so many years constructing a reality where her choices were necessary, inevitable, even noble. Tearing that down might require more courage than she has left, but that's not my responsibility anymore. My responsibility is the 9-year-old girl who bounds off the school bus every afternoon, who tells me about her day in breathless run-on sentences, who still climbs into my bed during thunderstorms and asks if I'll stay until she falls asleep. She asked me once if I was sad that she wasn't born from my tummy. I told her the truth. I was sad for a while, sad that I didn't get to be pregnant with you, sad that I missed the very beginning of your story, but you know what? The beginning is just 1 chapter. We've written hundreds of chapters together since then. And those are the ones I wouldn't trade for anything. She thought about that for a moment. Then she hugged me tight enough to crack ribs. I'm glad you're my real mom, she whispered. Me too, I said, and I meant it. Darren remarried last fall. His new wife is 26, works in marketing, has no idea what she's gotten into. I almost feel sorry for her. Almost. My mother attends church now, volunteers at the food bank, posts inspirational quotes about grace and second chances on social media. Her therapist told her to work on self-improvement. I suppose she's trying. My stepfather and I have dinner once a month. He's quieter than he used to be, carries his guilt like a physical weight. But he also tells stories about my childhood, about the daughter I lost, about what he remembers from the hospital that night. It helps to have someone who knew her, even for just a few hours, even if she never took a breath outside my body. I named her Eleanor, after a great aunt I'd never met but always admired in photographs. My therapist suggested a memorial, something tangible, something real. There's a small stone in the cemetery now, beneath a maple tree that turns gold every October. Eleanor, loved before she arrived, remembered always. I visit on her birthday, her actual birthday, not the date on my daughter's birth certificate. I bring flowers and sit in the grass and talk to her about everything she's missed. It sounds morbid, maybe it is, but it's also the first honest thing I've been able to do about her. The first acknowledgement that she existed, that she mattered, that her loss was real, even if nobody allowed me to grieve it. My mother has never visited the grave. I don't expect her to. Some people aren't capable of facing the full weight of what they've done. It would crush them. So they construct elaborate justifications, comforting narratives, versions of history where their actions were understandable, even necessary. I used to be angry about that, furious at the self-delusion required to sleep at night after everything she'd done. Now I just feel tired. Tired of carrying her choices, tired of analyzing her motivations, tired of waiting for an apology that might never come and might not matter even if it did. So I've stopped waiting. Instead, I focus on what I can control: my daughter's happiness, my own healing, the relationships I've chosen rather than the ones I was born into. Last week, I started dating again. Nothing serious. Just coffee with a man my sister introduced me to. He's a pediatrician, divorced, 2 kids of his own. He laughed at my jokes and asked thoughtful questions and didn't seem put off when I mentioned my complicated family history. "Everyone's got complicated family history," he said. "Yours just comes with more documentation." I actually laughed. A real laugh. The kind that catches you off guard because you'd forgotten you could make that sound. When I got home that night, my daughter was waiting up. "Did you have fun on your date?" "It wasn't a date. It was coffee." "That's what you said about the movie with Aunt Rachel. But you came home smiling the same way." "She's too smart for her own good." "Gets it from me," I tell people. Because she does. Because the years we've spent together have shaped her just as surely as any genetic code. "Fine," I admitted. "It was a date. A very small, very casual, nothing is happening date." She grinned. "Is he nice?" "Very nice." "Good." She hugged me around the waist. "You deserve someone nice." I held her for a long moment, felt her heartbeat against my ribs, thought about everything we'd survived to stand in this kitchen at 9 p.m. on a school night, talking about dates and nice men and the possibility of something better. "So do you," I said finally. "Always remember that. You deserve people who are nice to you, who tell you the truth, who choose you on purpose, not by accident." She looked up at me with eyes that are still my mother's, no matter how hard I try to see them differently. "I know," she said. "You taught me that. Maybe that's the only ending that matters. Not justice or revenge or vindication, not courts or custody agreements or rewritten wills, just a child who knows she's loved, who understands that truth matters, who will grow up to demand honesty from the people around her because she learned that lies destroy more than they protect." I can't change what happened, can't bring back the daughter I lost, can't undo the years I spent building a life on a foundation of deception, but I can change what happens next, and I am. One day at a time, one truth at a time, one choice at a time. My grandmother turned 84 last month. At her birthday dinner, just the small gathering of family who'd weathered the fallout, she pulled me aside. "I should have known," she said, her voice creaky but firm. "I should have seen what your mother was. I'm sorry I didn't protect you better. You couldn't have known. She fooled everyone." "Not everyone." My grandmother squeezed my hand. "Your stepfather knew. He just didn't have the courage. I hope I'm not repeating that mistake." "What do you mean?" She glanced toward the living room where my daughter was teaching my younger cousins a complicated hand-clapping game. "That girl has your mother's eyes but your heart. She's going to be fine because you're raising her. Not despite everything that happened, but because of it. You're teaching her what real love looks like." I didn't know what to say, so I just hugged her. This tiny woman who'd lost a daughter to her own choices and gained a granddaughter who refused to repeat them. "Thank you," I whispered. "Don't thank me," she replied. "Thank yourself. You could have let this destroy you. Instead, you let it teach you. That's the bravest thing I've ever seen." Brave isn't how I would have described myself 3 years ago. Desperate, maybe. Obsessive. Paranoid in ways that turned out to be justified. But maybe bravery is just doing the hard thing when the easy thing would be to look away, to accept the lie, to let sleeping dogs continue sleeping because waking them up means facing teeth. I woke the dogs, faced the teeth, and I'm still standing. That has to count for something. My daughter's 10th birthday is next month. She wants a party at the trampoline park, wants to invite her whole class, wants a custom cake shaped like a dinosaur riding a skateboard, which apparently is something she saw on TikTok. I'm planning everything: the invitations, the decorations, the goodie bags, the perfectly ridiculous cake. 10 years ago, I was in a hospital bed, sedated and devastated, holding a baby I didn't know wasn't mine, grieving a loss I wasn't allowed to remember. Now I'm ordering dinosaur-themed napkins and wondering if the trampoline park has any nut-free options. Life is strange, painful, beautiful, unpredictable, but it keeps moving forward, and so do I. Sometimes people ask if I regret what I did. The investigation, the exposure, the public destruction of my family at my grandmother's birthday party. The answer is complicated. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that the people who were supposed to protect me made themselves my enemies. I regret that my daughter will grow up knowing her origin story is a tragedy wrapped in a crime wrapped in years of deliberate deception. But I don't regret the truth. I don't regret knowing who I am and who my family really is. I don't regret giving my daughter a chance to grow up without that weight pressing down on her. She'll carry enough pain from this. At least she won't carry the burden of a lie she didn't know she was keeping. And I don't regret learning the most important lesson of my life. Trust is earned, love is action. And family isn't blood. Family is the people who show up, who stay, who tell you the truth even when it's hard. Everything else is just biology. And biology, as it turns out, is overrated.